Welcome, family. It's Conversations with Cobi. We're back again. It's Wednesday at 8:30, where we talk to intriguing and compelling people who do fabulous things. So today, it's our last show for Women's Month. And we're going to bring on somebody who is special to me, who is awesome, and she does so many things. In preparing for this show, I was even more compelled to speak to her. She is somebody who is a wordsmith. I think she's going to be a media mogul one day. And for now, during the show, I'm gonna call her Baby Oprah. But she also is a star lookalike. And if you know who it is, you'll figure it out when we get her on the show. So let's welcome my sister, Lisa Gardner. How are you today?
Hey, Cobi, how are you?
I'm amazing. I'm having a good day. You look beautiful as
Oh,
always.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So a lot of my friends out there are kind of new to you. This is their first time meeting. I've known you forever. But let's talk about who is, or can you give me a little summary about who is Lisa Gardner?
Mm. First name, Alicia. Middle name, Queen. And I am a queen by blood. My grandmother is Sarah Queen, and before her grandmother was a queen. And so, yeah, born and raised in Spokane, Washington. My mother had me very young. She was a teenage mother, and my grandparents raised me. So I was raised with my mom almost like she was my sister because she was so young when she had me. But I loved it. Spokane in the 70s and 80s. You couldn't tell me I wasn't in a big city or in a black city because my neighborhood was black, my school was black, my friends, it was a great upbringing. I wouldn't change it for the world.
So, what are some of the things that was unique to you living in Spokane? Because that's an interesting place. I don't know. You're the only person I know that lives in Spokane, Washington.
I'm the only person I know that lives in Spokane, Washington. Spokane. Oh, first of all, we're 30 minutes from Idaho. And I think people flash at that like, what? Idaho? We are literally 30 minutes outside of Idaho. We are 4 hours east of Seattle. So Seattle is on the west side of the state, closer to the Pacific Ocean. We're inland. So we're known as the Inland Empire. We're, again, right next to Idaho. Spokane, growing up, like I said, 70s, 80s, 90s, beautiful. We had unity, but the unity, unfortunately, was due to redlining. So we were redlined into our neighborhoods in like the 30s and 40s and even a little bit into the 50s. So it forced us to be a cohesive community. It forced us to live together, be together. And it was great because I grew up in that. So it wasn't until I got into high school and beyond that I started to see the injustice and the difference of how I was raised and how Spokane is completely different from the rest of the world.
Wow. So you're living out in Spokane, Washington, close to Idaho, where they make a lot of potatoes. But then you find yourself at an HBCU at Bowie State University. How did that happen?
Wow. I always loved the East Coast. The East Coast was just, one of those things that I got to get there. I want to be on the East Coast, always loved, East Coast hip hop, Nas, Leaders of the New School, Tribe Called Quest. I loved it. And then Mary J. Blige came out and I was like, oh, I definitely got to get to the East Coast. But I never knew how I would attempt it. And I participated in a program called AmeriCorps, and not a lot of people are familiar with AmeriCorps, but I did AmeriCorps for 2 years. And at the end of 2 years, I received scholarship money to go to college. And my 1 year of doing AmeriCorps, I was working in the Yakima County Department of Corrections. So I was working in the county jail. And that was interesting, working in a county jail. And if you know me, sometimes I can be a flirt. So I can be flirting with inmates, walking into work. Hey. No, that's not who you flirt with, boo. Anyway, my supervisor, she ended up being my mentor, and she had her degrees on the wall. And one was Eastern Kentucky University for her undergrad. And her graduate degree was what at the time I was calling Bowie State. I was like, what's a Bowie State University? And so she's like, you would like Bowie State University. She's like, it's called Bowie. She's like, I went to Bowie for my criminal justice. She had her master's in criminal justice. And I said, why would I like it? And she said, because it's a HBCU. And only HBCU I had ever heard of was Howard University and Spelman. That's it. That's all I heard of. And I was like, it's an HBCU. She said, yes. She's like, I think it's a school that you would like. And I said, well, how did you end up at HBCU? She's like, it had a very, very good program for criminal justice. And I got a minority scholarship. She was a white woman.
Wow.
So I was appalled at first, like, how you, what? So long story short, I didn't go. And originally, I didn't care. I was just kind of sticking in Washington. And then unfortunately, my mother died. And when my mother died, I stopped everything. I stopped school. I stopped working. I just was in a depression. And she kept reaching out to me. She's like, do me this favor, please, please, please apply for Bowie, apply for it. And I said, okay, just to get her off my back. And I was accepted. And I said, I guess I'm going to Bowie State University. Never heard of it, but I'm going.
Awesome. And so like, how, when we talk about HBCUs and leadership, I know people don't really get what's been going on now or get to know you, but you have a legacy of activism and you are active and you come from that. And so how did Bowie help shape that? I don't want to get into the deep stuff. We'll talk about that later, but how did Bowie help shape that?
I became much more self-aware. At Bowie. And like I said earlier, and I prefaced, living in Spokane and living in my neighborhood, which is the East Central neighborhood of Spokane, Washington, shout out to the East Side. But we, Black was king for us growing up in Spokane in this small community because it's all we had. But it wasn't until I got to Bowie that I started to really learn about my Blackness as far as history, and so I was becoming much more self-aware about where my people come from, where we come from as far as being Black, how even my family ended up in Spokane, Washington, just learning history in general. And I think also my process of joining Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated.
I know that's right.
It helped me to, that's that self-actualization, self-realization that happens when you're becoming a member of any Greek letter organization. And if that chapter is doing a good job of that, then you're really learning yourself and coming into who you are. And I think that was the stepping stone for later on. It's being confident and building me into this, woman that I want to be later on down the road, and meeting other people, meeting my sorors, meeting my frat brothers who also have dreams and aspirations that I look to them as role models as well. So I think all of it played a part in leading me to the path that I'm on I was on and to where I am now.
Yeah, because one of the things that I've learned, especially doing this, is you took your passion and purpose and kind of blended those two things together. Your passion for words and communication and all those other things, and tied it with your purpose of advocacy and advocating for people of color or underserved neighborhoods. So tell me how you were able to merge those two to bring that, or what gave you that little spark to make that decision?
Well, to your point, communications is my jam. It's my thing. Like I like everything communications and pop culture and Black culture and all of that. And a lot of times, especially in the media, Black news, Black culture, we're muzzled. We're the gatekeepers like to put a muzzle on what Black excellence is going on out there at times. And I want to be at the helm of putting it out there. You know, I love public relations. I love communications. I love writing. I love radio broadcast. So if there's a story to tell, especially from communities of color, let's tell it. Let's get it out there. You know, platforms like this, you know, this, I love it. Like, look at what Cobi got here. This is nice. This is what it's about. It's about, you know, connecting our community and then mobilizing our messages to the mass media. Because, you know, if we sit around and wait for traditional media or the dominant culture media to do it for us, we're never going to be able to get our stories and our successes and our trials and tribulations and triumphs. We're never going to get that out if we wait for them. So I love being able to come up with ideas, the ideation and strategy behind how can we tell our story? How can I tell my story? How can I reach different audiences? What's going to be my topic? What am I going to talk about? So I just love stirring that pot.
I know that's right. And so we're going to come back to your writing. So one of the things I noticed that you are very diverse as far as your interests and your talents when it comes to writing, because now you're currently working communications director for City Council of Spokane. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
But you also work for Entertainment Magazine doing some writing. Am I correct? How do you say it? Okay.
Yes and no. So I have people who have approached me and said, would you be willing to write an article? And I say, yes. Now, do I always get a check for that? No. But yes, from time to time, I do contribute articles. And I also contribute an article or articles on behalf of NAACP to our local paper called The Black Lens.
Oh, see, I missed that one. I didn't find that. But that comes back, that circles us around to your activism, and you're currently active and pushing the NAACP, right? Mm-hmm. So tell us about that, and also how you're tied to the NAACP in some other ways also.
So my grandmother, she was a community activist here in Spokane. She was a business owner. First and foremost, she was a beautician, had her own beauty salon. Again, a Black woman in Spokane, 30 minutes outside of Idaho, who is this independent woman. And I'm talking independent all the way, all 4'11" of her. She was completely and totally independent. And she loved the community. She loved the kids. She loved the youth. She always wanted to do something with youth groups. She loved women's circles, NAACP, the links, fashion shows, all of that. She wanted to make sure that we had a vibrant community here in Spokane. And when eventually she ended up running for city council herself. Mm-hmm. Although she did not win the primaries, she definitely made a lot of people aware and perk up, like, okay, there's this Black woman who ran for city council. So it's this Black woman in politics in Spokane. And so on her campaign, she wanted to be a voice for the voiceless. And so that was always her platform. And she was always that person as a beautician who, you know, it was pimps and prostitutes were coming in and getting their hair done. And that's her, you know, and then it would be preachers and deacons, you know, she didn't turn anyone away. You know, she wanted to make sure that everyone had a person in the community that represented them. So fast forward to me and coming back to Spokane, it's not only working for a city council that my grandmother was aspiring to be a part of, but carrying on that voice for the voiceless. So now I have the education, I have the tools, I know that I have the know-how to do that for, you know, our community, for the Black community. And of course, you know, it's in my blood. I need to be a part of the NAACP. So when the current president approached me and said that she wanted me on her executive committee, I said, absolutely. You know, of course, this is what my grandmother would have wanted. And I'm, you know, fulfilling her dreams by doing that.
Awesome. Awesome. So you're part of city council. You're also part of NAACP, but you also have been trying to be a voice for the voiceless. So can you explain to us about the Juneteenth House bill that you are working on to make Juneteenth a holiday for the state of Washington.
So Juneteenth is not a legal holiday in the state of Washington. And I was reading some of our, legislative agenda items that are coming through the state, and just, doing my due diligence of keeping abreast. And I saw it. I said, wait, what's this? And I immediately ran into the office of our Councilwoman Betsy Wilkerson, who is also African-American councilwoman, and told her, it's like, I need you. I know it's last minute, but tomorrow I need you to sign on to the Capitol, to the hearing, and make a testimony in making Juneteenth a state holiday. So it's still in process. It still has to go to another hearing. It was just in the committee, and she went into the committee hearing and she testified, just representing Eastern Washington, because our state capital is Olympia, Washington, and it's on the west side of the state near Seattle. So she was representing for the Eastern Washington, and testifying and saying that yes, that it's about time that we had Juneteenth as a state holiday.
See, like you've putting all these together. I was watching your show, Changing the Narrative, with the NAACP. You also are talking about, think about how important that would be to make Juneteenth a state holiday, just how it would be effective across the nation, and all of those things. And you didn't just go to her. You went out there and did some legwork. We're not going to talk about that too much, but you went out there and put out some legwork. So now we've sat down there, you've done all these things, but what is your real motivation?
My real motivation, that's a really good question. At the heart, I like writing. I've been writing, oh gosh, since maybe 2010, 2011. I have a blog. I journal all the time. So I'm constantly in my journals, I'm writing. You can open up any random notebook that I have around it. It might be a poem in there. It might be just creative writing. Writing is my passion. If right now, if you stop me and say, what can you do, or what would you do if money was not an object? It'd probably be, I would be the next Terry McMillan. Like, I would write stories about love, write stories about family, write stories about just anything. And then, go on book tours, have my books become a movie, have a dope soundtrack, all that stuff. That's what I would, that's my vision. That's my dream. If I make it, fantastic. If I don't, I'm not going to be disappointed, because I also like what I do every day with working with council. I never thought that I would love politics like I do now. And I do. It's amazing. I'm like, I actually like politics. So, I do. My passion is writing. I love to write. I miss broadcasting. I used to be, on radio. Mm-hmm. And I'm working with the local station here, KYRS, but more so on the strategy side, not more so on the on-air side. And I'll probably do some on-air, but I absolutely miss broadcasting. But I would say my first love is writing.
Oh, wow. So you have all of these skills. And on top of that, you look like this famous celebrity. So I've heard that you look like Diana Ross, and I would agree.
You would agree?
Yes.
I have Diana on my wall over there.
Yes. Miss Raina.
Raina, yes. My line sister gave me that for my 30th birthday, and it is because when I was going through my process of Zeta, that they made me sing Diana Ross songs because I favored Diana Ross.
And you do. And you've always been amazing and funny. And I didn't know that you love to write so much, but you've always been a great communicator. And no nonsense. I have to say that. I have to add that part. You've always been no nonsense with a beautiful smile. So if it was one thing, I'm going to come back to that. But if others wanted to do the work like you do, right, what would you say to them?
Do the work as far as
in the community work and activism and all those things. What would you tell them?
Get involved. Keep your, your eyes peeled and your ears open. I prior to this position, I really wasn't into politics and into community, anything. And I do believe that God has a way of putting you where you belong, and he did that. He's like, okay, you might want to think that you want to work here at Microsoft. You might think that you want to go and do this, but really you're going to thrive over here. This is where I'm going to put you, because let me tell you, I would have never picked Spokane to come back to. It's my home. It's my home. I had a great upbringing, but I never would have picked this. But I would say now that I've been in it for the last 10 months, I would say if someone wants to get involved, do it. Look at the Urban League, see what the Urban League is doing. Look at your local NAACP, see what they're doing. Reach out to your local fraternities and sororities to see what programs that they're doing and who they're collaborating with and who they're working with in the community. Go to your local community centers, just whatever sparks you. And I think what happens is people, they don't know. They think that to get involved means to go and donate at a homeless shelter. And that's not what some people want to do. If you feel like the youth and kids is something that you want to get involved with, then definitely go and get involved with that. For me, working with council, I think one of the my hot topics, it's going to be diversity and inclusion and equity, especially in this 85% white city, making sure that it's fair and equitable, but also, making sure that there are opportunities, opening up opportunities for people of color. I think that those have been kind of like my passion since I've been back here. Again, a voice for the voiceless.
Yes. So you have this unique middle name that has a story. Can you share us that story about the middle name Queen?
My middle name. So my middle name is Queen. That's royalty. My grandmother, Sarah Queen, her middle name is Queen. And her grandmother before that middle name was Queen. And the story my grandmother used to tell every Thanksgiving, every holiday around the table is how she got the name Queen. So she says, according to her, this is the Sarah Queen story, that the name Queen goes all the way back to George Washington, who had a slave named Queenie Washington. And so Queenie Washington, of course, the name went on, and the Queenie, the IE dropped off, and it was just Queen. And I don't know if that's true. I don't know if my grandmother was, sipping a little too much rum and that's just her story. And then she's sticking to it. But that's it. So I guess maybe if I do some research, I can find out if that's true or not. But that's how Queen has just been in our family for generation after generation.
Awesome. So this is the last thing, and this is what I was getting ready to say, but I said I wanted to come back to it, is if you had one sentence or one thing to say to somebody, anybody, what would it be? And who is it and what would it be?
Oh, to someone?
Yes. It doesn't matter who it is.
Oh, this is hard. Okay, wait, hold on. Let me think. Oh, man. That's not like I got fans out there, so I don't know. I think I would probably say to my future self, good job, kiddo.
Oh.
Because I never thought that I would make it.
Wow. I would ask, we're running out of time, but I would ask, why would you think that? But we're going to hold that, because you're a friend of the show. We might have to bring you back after you do some more fantabulous stuff. So we're going to keep you along. So everybody, please click the like button, hit the thumbs up, check us out on YouTube. Please give love to Lisa Gardner, my sister, and
you forgot the queen.
Soror.
We did all that. You forgot the queen. Come on.
Say, give love to my sister, my soror, Lisa Queen Gardner. All right, everybody, we love you, and stay up.
Thank you, Cobi.